Welcome to Section 7, Program Planning. In this section, we're going to talk about the components of an effective practice or sports session and how to design and adapt a program plan to meet the needs of each child. As you learned in the previous section, Becoming an Effective Coach, preparation and planning are key to a successful session and program overall. As a coach, you can prepare for success by starting with a high level outline of the program season. So, for example, knowing your start and end date, how many practice sessions and games your team will have each week, and how much time you will devote to each. This will set the stage for more in depth planning. Having a thorough understanding of what skills to focus on each and every session. So, start with teaching and incorporating fundamental movement skills, such as throwing, catching, kicking, or running. You can also incorporate activities that will improve fitness and coordination skills. Eventually, you can work your way up to sport specific skills that are a combination of two or more fundamental movement skills. So, an example would be a layup in basketball involves jumping and throwing, or a tackle in rugby involves dodging or lunging and jumping or leaping. Creating individual practice plans that build off each other. So, the first few sessions, I may teach skating, stick handling, and shooting all separately. And then I can progress to having players skating while stick handling and then shooting on net. So you can increase the challenge and steps as you get into more practice sessions and players are feeling more confident and competent. And finally, incorporating activities that develop agility, balance, coordination, and speed, the ABCs. Incorporate an unexpected puck or ball into a drill where they're moving at a fast pace, or incorporate some obstacles in a drill that they have to move around. During the planning stage, it's important to know your program area and space. So, what room do you have to work with, and how can you maximize the use of that space effectively? You could have large group activities and smaller stations, possibly. So, maybe the first part of your session involves children working on an individual skill of their choice by spreading around the program space. Next, you could do stations in smaller or medium sized groups around the area. And finally, you could end with a scrimmage between two teams using the entire program space. Secondly, identify the equipment you have access to. So be proactive and make sure you know exactly how much equipment you have before a practice. You don't want to show up and find out you have half the amount of soccer balls you thought you had and end up adjusting your entire program plan. Do you have enough equipment for every player? Remember, try to reduce the time that players stand around or have to wait for a turn. With enough equipment, you can help children stay engaged. And finally, use activities that maximize participation. So, stations focusing on different skill development work well so that children are rotating through and doing something at all times. It also adds some variety and limits standing around. Strategically group participants in smaller groups so that there's more opportunity to participate and touch the ball or the puck, for example. And allow time for children to choose a skill to work on and ensure there's adequate equipment to support this. It's important to plan games and activities that maximize participation at all times. We know that when a child's participating fully, we've created an optimal learning environment that's fun. So, here are some ways we can do this. Active waiting. If you're doing an activity that requires children to take turns or wait for their turn, have those waiting in line play pass with a ball or puck instead of just standing around. Have lots of equipment, so use multiple pieces of equipment to maximize touch points. So maybe you incorporate 3 soccer balls or pucks into a scrimmage instead of one. Have you ever thought about incorporating a soccer ball at a baseball practice? Incorporating unexpected equipment can add fun and help develop fundamental movement skills so kids can gain confidence in other activities. Small groupings. Being strategic with how you group players is very important. So use pairs or smaller groups often to maximize engagement and participation. Avoid appointing captains and picking teams because this will only lead to disappointment and exclusion for those that are picked last. Flexible plans. If something isn't working well, switch it up and go to one of your backup activities. You can also ask kids what they want to do or what activities they really enjoy. Giving choice leads to more investment and engagement from your players. So ask players what they thought of new activities or drills to evaluate the success and determine if it's worth doing again. Short drills that change up often. This will keep the attention and engagement while developing many different sport specific skills. So, plan for high intensity activities at the beginning of the session when energy is likely at its highest. Use stations, as we mentioned, for children to rotate through for some variety and constant participation. When coaches take an intentional approach to planning and leading sessions, they can ensure children are having a quality sport experience. Now, let's move into more specifics on planning a practice session. In the Fun Team Resources section, you have access to a session planning worksheet. You may find it helpful to follow along and fill it in as we cover this next part. There are 5 key components to a great session: welcome or introduction, warm up, main practice, cool down, and wrap up. So let's look at each one in more detail. First up, welcome or introduction. This should take anywhere from about 2 to 10 minutes and will help you set a positive tone, make participants feel welcomed and comfortable, and help build connection. Make sure to arrive early and set up for your various drills and activities so you're ready to go as soon as practice starts. Be proactive. Have you inspected the space for hazards to prevent injuries? And once participants come, let them know what to expect for each session. Greet each person by name. Trust me, it will go a long way to make them feel valued and safe. Chat with each participant and see how they're feeling and what their energy level's like. And allow for social time. Maybe you let children talk and catch up with others a few minutes at the start of each session, or this could happen during water break. Maybe you want to play a little icebreaker game with the group to start off so that children are having fun and they're strengthening connections with other players. And of course, if a new player joins after the season starts, make sure there's a proper welcome, introductions of other players, and maybe an icebreaker game is played. Next is the warm up, and this should take about 5 to 10 minutes. The warm up's important for loosening muscles and raising the body's temperature in preparation for physical activity and preventing injuries, but it's also great for helping your group build a sense of team. So set the tone. Maybe open up with some positive feedback or how excited you are for this season to see players progress in their skills. Develop team rituals. For example, maybe each player takes a turn leading a stretch, and you do this for the warm up in every session. Or maybe your team skates in a circle and does a team cheer before they start practice. Incorporate fundamental movement skill development. So, this could be a series of active stretches, such as walking lunges or walking high kicks, led by the coach, or maybe you add in a new activity each session that focuses on one fundamental movement skills. So, for example, dodging around pylons as you run or you skate. Give children choice. Let your participants choose some low intensity, fun activities to do or play as a warm up. For example, play Everybody's It tag, where literally everybody is it. You can do this on ice, land, and in water. In your Fun Team workbook under the warm up part of section 7, you'll see some more ideas to help you set the tone in a warm up. You can also find team building activities in the Fun Team resources section. Next is the main practice, and this will be the longest part of your session, which should take about 30 to 60 minutes depending on the length of your practice. The main practice gives opportunities to learn and practice sport-specific skills in a fun way. Focus on 3 to 6 activities that develop sport-specific skills. So you should know ahead of time what specific skills you want to focus on and create 3 to 6 different activities or drills. Make transitions between skills efficient and effective. So these transitions should be smooth and should not require a lot of waiting around or downtime when setting up for the next activity. Could you use 1 or 2 grid formations for the whole practice for a variety of activities? Think about that and consider that for a future practice session. Maximize participation and engagement. Assess the level of engagement from participants during each drill. So if you find there are interruptions, disruptive behavior, and too much chatting between players, it likely means kids are bored. So adjust and either provide an added challenge. So for example, shooting further away from the target, using your non dominant hand, or even giving players a time limit to complete an activity, or just be prepared to transition to the next activity. As a coach, you have to be able to adjust activities on the fly so that each participant is challenged at the right level. After having fun in the main practice, it's time for a cool down, which should take between 5 and 10 minutes. A cool down helps to lower the intensity of the activities before kids leave and allows you to debrief and gain feedback. Focus on 1 to 2 activities that decrease in intensity. So maybe a light jog around the playing area or a circle stretch during water break. Ask for feedback. So, what did players like? What didn't they like? And is there anything you would want to play or focus on next time? As we learned in Section 6, Becoming an Effective Coach, getting feedback from players contributes to your team and coaching success. Review key points from practice. So, for example, we practiced our corner kicks and where to position players for attacking and scoring. We also learned how to find and move into space. And finally, reflect on how things went. As a coach, you can share how you think practice went and highlight a few great observations and actions from your participants. The wrap up is the final component of an effective session plan and should only take about 3 to 5 minutes. This part often gets overlooked, especially if you're short on time, but this helps build connection and excitement for the next session. Take the opportunity to share information about the upcoming schedule. So, for example, no game this Saturday because of the long weekend, but we'll see you back next Monday for practice. And bring extra water. Connect with each child on their way out and try and use everyone's name when saying goodbye and thanking them for giving their best. This will go a long way. Incorporate feedback into the next session. So, whether you jot down notes on your program plan or take notes on your phone, doing this before you leave will help you remember what to change up or focus on for next time. You are now on your way to building great session plans for your team. Refer back to this section, your workbook, and the session planning worksheet within the Fun Team Resources section to help you plan and prepare for your next session. You've now completed the final section, Section 7, Program Planning. Congratulations and thanks for following along. Be sure to check out www.funteamalberta.com for more information. Have a great season.